Hi, folks, and welcome to another Saturday morning Samoflange. I'm Matt, and boy, howdy, do I have a fun one for you. We've been counting down the days of my work life. After I'd left AmSouth, I did not have a job, which was true. I was super lazy about finding another job. I would walk in and pretend I had an interview. This is back before the internet was that big. I'd walk in pretending I had an interview and fool them into giving me interviews. It did eventually land me a job, but in between all this, someone had contacted me, and it was one of my favorite people. I had met her at a bank outing. A few banks had met up, a regional bank meetup where us and a bunch of other banks were together. And she always liked me, and she kept asking me to come work for her. She worked for a credit union. And she had called me because she heard I wasn't working at AmSouth anymore. She went, I want to know if you're interested. I said, I don't want to be a loan officer. I don't want to do anything. I said, I'll be a teller. I said, but I don't want to, because for me, this was a part-time job. I did not want to go back to the bank. And she went, well, credit union's a lot easier. We're more laid back. We do care about our customers here. And I was like, but I loved Miss Rita. I still love her. I haven't seen her in a couple of years now, but I absolutely love this woman today. One of the best bosses I ever had. And because she was so sweet, I went to work for her as a teller. And, and had fun, had some good memories. And so here are the memories of me as a teller for the credit union. In fact, number 5 happened after I had left the credit union. Back to the job I'd just gotten. I worked at another bank, and I decided to close my old credit union account and shift my whole account over. And I remember the teller who I worked with back in the day. In fact, we went out on a date once, and it was kind of forced. It was okay. It felt a little awkward. She was a little bit older than me. She was still cute as a button. And, she was very shy and quiet. She was an old country gal, big belt buckles, cowboy hat, boots and everything. I really wasn't interested, but because our mutual friend Lisa I love so much just wanted to hook us up together. I don't think either one of us may have been interested because we were mainly just friends. But we went out, and it was just, it wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't feeling, I don't think she was either. We were just friends. But we were dear friends. And I remember when she was the teller when I walked in and closed my account, and she cried. And I was like, are you crying? Why? And I still talk to some of the people from the one of my friends, Miss Debbie. We have the same birthday, so we talk a lot together. And that's another person I need to contact because I miss so much. So... and I see her all the time too. But we laugh about some of these moments. I don't think she was around when Amber cried, but I remember thinking, why the heck are you crying? What the heck? So that's, no, it's not honorable mention. That is number 5. I have crying teller here. All right. Number 4 was one I worked with a bunch, back in the day, and even some today, it was all ladies in the credit union, 100% ladies. And this was later on. There was a new boss who I did not like at all. In fact, I absolutely despised her. And I don't know why I didn't left. When Miss Rita left 6 months into it, I think they ran her off. And I told her I'm going to quit. And she went, no, don't quit, Matt. Please don't quit. I want you to keep that job. I went, Miss Rita, did they run you out? She went, no, I decided to leave. And I think they did run her out. But she was just being too sweet and too nice, and she did not want me to quit. She begged me to stay. But I said, Ms. Reader, you're the only reason that I even took this stupid job, and I don't want to be here. But once she left, this other old lady came in. I just could not stand her. And one day she made everyone stay late for a very important meeting. I had things to do. I didn't want to stay late. It's 6:30. I'm tired. I'm hungry. I want to go home. And she goes, okay, ladies, I don't know who is flushing down their personal care items, but you are clogging up the toilet. I didn't need to hear this. So I raised my hand. I said, I promise it wasn't me. Can I please leave? And everyone started laughing. And she went, I'm sorry, Matt. Yes, you may leave. I was so pissed. And I just hated her because she never even acted like she saw me. And she is going to come into play she is actually number 1. A great story about her. But number 3, there was another lady. What was her name? Pam or something? But this was, if you've ever seen Debbie Downer on SNL, that was her. Dang, her name is on the tip of my... Bonnie. Bonnie was her name. Bonnie, 100% had a bad day. Every day was a bad day for Bonnie. Everything was terrible. Everything was awful. She had always something to complain about. She would come up to you and physically sigh to see if you'd say, "What's wrong?" "I'll tell you what's wrong." Or she'd go, "Whoa." She would just keep doing that. And I could not stand her. In fact, I made a dartboard of her face at my house and threw darts at it. I really did that. I could not stand her. In fact, I invited the head teller and one of the loan officers over to throw darts at Bonnie's face. They didn't believe me until they came over to my apartment and had a good laugh. Amber and Jessica I still see every once in a while. Oh no, I should have put that down. Oh, I have a great story with her. So I'll throw that one in somewhere in here. That's probably the number 2 story with me and Jessica, because we still talk about that together, even though she is I'm not as embarrassed as she is about it. She is super embarrassed. But they used to come over and hang out all the time with me, and it was so much fun. Anyway, we threw darts at her face. I threw darts at her face. I couldn't stand her. And again, they thought I was kidding, and I wasn't. But bought a dartboard too, because I didn't play darts, but wanted to throw darts at her face. So she was so negative. So I just started flipping the script and saying, hey, you know what? Mondays are the best. Because she would always talk about how Monday, can't wait till Friday. Fridays can't come fast. Weekend wasn't long enough. Monday. And then when Friday comes, she'd go, can't wait till 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock can't come fast enough. It's just grated on my soul. I hated her so much. So then I said, you know what? I'm going to be stupid happy on Monday mornings. So I'd come in and I'd tell this exaggerated story. I mean, mythical story, made up story about me fighting a bunch of leprechauns with flaming swords, riding a unicorn with wings. I'd make up this whole stupid story about what happened to me over the weekend. I said it was such a long weekend that I found an old wardrobe that led to Narnia, ruled for king for 40 years, and then came back out. Happy Monday. And everyone would just laugh. And it got to be where they were excited to hear what crazy story I would come up with on Mondays. And then they started participating in it. And gosh, I can't believe I remember everyone's name, but Sarah did. And, what's the cute little, Megan was her name. Little blonde girl. Yeah, she wanted to date me for a little while, but she was a little loose. So she wanted to date everyone. So I avoided that one. Even though, oddly enough, her daddy was an assessor, and I wanted to be an assessor so bad. And she went, my daddy can get you a job. And I'm thinking, is it worth settling down with a hoochie mama? And I almost, because I really wanted to be an assessor. I'm an appraiser, I wanted to be an appraiser when I was younger. Because I just thought that was freedom. I all the great people, I still know a lot of great appraisers, but I just thought that's the best job in the world. You get your own hours, you can work as hard as you want, get tons of money. And I knew the job. I was like, oh man, but I never did it. In fact, one of my buddies, because I remember I knew this girl liked me because when we went on one date, I think together. No, it wasn't a date. It was a Christmas party. She had a picture of us together and she kept it by her bed. And my buddy, who actually worked as an appraiser underneath her dad, said, are you dating his daughter? I went, how do you know? I said, why would you know that? He went, I work for her dad. Your picture is everywhere in her room. I was like, yeah. What were you doing in her room? Maybe I should have asked that. But hoochie mama. So wasn't gonna have that happen. But anyway, all the ladies were super nice. They were super nice, and they started participating in Magical Monday Mornings, is what we called them, where they tell this goofy story. While we were opening up, they tell goofy stories. And the head teller told me one day, she went, Matt, do you know what happened? We're so excited to be on Mondays now because I was telling my husband last night, oh, wait, we can't go to bed yet. I need to come up with a fun story of what we did. And so you would always take what you really did that weekend and exaggerate on it. So she was trying to exaggerate on all these stories, and her husband went, I have never seen someone excited for Mondays as you are. And she went, oh, that's right, we enjoy Mondays now. Oh, and by the way, what did Bonnie do? She just would sulk in a corner because she thought the whole thing was stupid. And she wanted to complain, but no one wanted to complain. They wanted to have a happy Monday and have them leave her alone. So, dude, I remember Bonnie's husband's name, Glenn. Dang. I'm better at names than what I thought. Just talking about this is reminding me of people. Now, if I could bring anyone on the podcast to do this, probably Jessica, because we have the number one story. She's really awesome. She was a lot of fun. She had several husbands too, if I recall. I love you, Jessica. I know you're not listening, but she did. Anyway, number 2. Well, this is going to be moving down. This is when I'd first come to that credit union. Or no, had it been? I can't remember. No. I was working in West Monroe, and they moved because I hated this lady so bad in Monroe. They moved into a different branch in the town next to us, and I loved working at that branch. But then they eventually moved me back to the Monroe site one because they didn't have room for me there, and I was so upset. Well, because they needed more experienced tellers over there, but I wanted to stay there because I always loved West Monroe. That was my favorite spot, and that's where me and Miss Debbie connected. We were best of friends, and I always loved going back. Well, one day, I remember I'm a teller because that's all I wanted to be at the time. And I was giving counting out my cash and giving it to the vault teller, which I used to be a vault teller actually, I think I've told this story at AmSouth one time. I was a vault teller and I counted out, didn't even know it until I gave it to the armored truck, because then I realized, because you're always dealing in six figures, I'd given him $685,000 in cash. My hands have held over $750,000 in cash. I didn't even realize it. I was just pissed. It took me forever to count down the cash. But at the credit union, I was just plain Jane teller. I was not a vault teller. And so I remember, another story of AmSouth. I forgot. There was a bunch of bank robberies going around in town, and we had the cops staking out our bank because we were one of the few banks that hadn't been hit yet. And then later on, when they busted the guy, we found out why he didn't hit our bank. Because he went to church with our head teller, and the head teller would have recognized his voice. Welcome to the South, right? Anyway, moving back to number 2. So I said, hey, and I'm not looking, and she's not looking either. I said, hey, here's my cash. I gave her the bag. Well, I went high, she went low, and she grabbed something else that was not the money bag. If you know what I mean. And she realized immediately. I was like, yip, because, she was like, oh, man, is that a roll of quarters? Nope, but I can knock some sense into you. I was like, woo, hello. Good morning, Vietnam. Moon River, I think is what Chevy Chase said one time. That was the other end, though. But anyway, we both realized, started laughing. I was like, hello. And she went, I am so sorry. And we all started laughing about it. Of course, it came out. We told. And then HR came by. She went, hey, so I heard what happened. And she started laughing. She went, I don't want to laugh. Matt, do you need to talk about it? Do you need to file a complaint? She said, I have to check with you. They called me in. And I said, is it, and of course, the movie line that everyone said before, I said, is it sexual harassment if you liked it? And everyone started laughing. And I remember Miss Felicia was the one who grabbed me, and she was so embarrassed over that. Because I know she didn't mean to, but that was a fun time. But I'm going to replace that number 2 with another one and bump everything down because the crying teller wasn't as good. So Jessica, this is either the first or second time she got married. I cannot remember. Her mom, no, the head teller was her best friend. And Amber wanted to she was told no strippers, but she said, Matt, will you please show up and pretend to be the stripper? So I did, but I showed up in a mask. So she didn't know who I was. And so I didn't strip. I took my jacket off, was messing with my shirt a little bit. And Jessica's red in the face because she did not want a stripper. Her mom was there. She's so embarrassed. And then I'd taken off the shirt, still had the mask on, ripped off the mask. And she saw it was me. And I remember what song. It was an Eazy-E song. I can't remember. Oh, I do remember. I can't really say that song. Pretty dirty song. But Easy E. Whenever I think about that song, I think about her. And she started. She fell out of her chair. Her mom didn't know who I was, and she said that's someone I work with. And it was, but that was her mom's first. And now her mom goes, "Oh yeah, you were the stripper." And I went, "Please don't say that in public. Please don't call me." She's like, "Well, that's just how I remember you." And I saw her. We went to a Chamber of Commerce meeting for the city last year, and I saw Jessica, and she's high up now at wherever bank she works at now. And she was sitting with some girls that work with her. I said, "A lot of good memories, Jess. You want to talk about them?" She's like, "No, I do not." I said, "You don't want to talk about your bachelorette night?" She went, "Matt, please stop." And she's laughing too. She's turned red. I said, "You're getting red. Are you?" "I'm not embarrassed to say it. If you want to say it." She's like, "Matt, please, I work with these people." I mean, she's kind of giggling. So I mean, didn't tell the story, but God bless America. Fun times, fun times. But anyway, that'd be number 2, and that'd bump everything else down. Now the number 1, I'm saving the best for absolutely last because this is pretty good. So I told you I hated that old lady. Well, at this point in time, oh, shut up. Oh man, this is so weird. This is so weird that this is certain happens. It's funny how life happens, passes you by. A new teller had come in. Her name was Miranda. I know that quite well, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Her name was Miranda. I welcomed her to the team, and then I noticed that she automatically got to do other things. She got to do the ATM runs, which I never got to do one. They were training her to do this and that, and she was going to apply for they were going to have a loan officer position pop up. And I'd been a teller for maybe a year now, and I thought, you know what? It's time. If I can't sit here spinning my wheels on teller. I'm better than this. I'm going to take the bump up. I'm going to apply. So I went and told the old lady I was applying for loan. It frightened her. She wanted to give it to the new girl because she really liked the new girl who'd only been there for like 3 months now. She really wanted to give it her. She did not want me to have the job. And she went, so you want this job? I said, yeah. Well, Matt, we got to see. I said, no, I've been here for a full year now. I haven't had a single write-up. I've been excellent at my job. I said, I think I can do this. So yeah, I'm going to apply. Well, then I walk out, and then she calls me back into the office about an hour. She went, hey, I need you to sign this write-up. I went, whoa, write-up for what? And there was something that happened. Within my first 3 months, what had happened was I was over in my drawer $100, and we couldn't figure it out. And I was like, oh my gosh, is that a write-up? And they said, I said, yeah, it's going to be a write-up. And so the next day they had the write-up ready to go, but then someone came in and said, hey, this is going to sound really awful, but I think you shortchanged me $100. I went, you, because he had cashed in this huge check, and I had just lost count of the hundreds. I went, dude, I was over 100 in my drawer, so it was you? He went, yes. He went, so I can get my, he said, because I felt so bad. I didn't, when I got home, I recounted. I was like, oh no, he shorted me $100, but they're never going to believe me. And I said, dude, I'm so sorry. Yes, I have it. So I said, Amber, this is the guy. So we gave it to him, and she went, you know what? We won't do a write-up. And the branch manager agreed. She said, okay, yeah, it was an honest mistake. We won't do a write-up. Well, then, 8 months later, she decides, or 9 months later, she decides she's going to write me up for that incident now. I was like, whoa. No, you said I didn't have to be written up because we found out who it was, and we resolved it the next morning. You didn't even, I don't think, in fact, I don't think she'd caught wind of it till after the whole thing was over and done with. And she, well, yeah, but thinking back on it, we should have written you up for that. So she's trying to get a write-up on me that would not allow me to, or maybe disqualify me, or be a reason to pass me up for this girl. Because I knew that's who she wanted to promote, but, the girl was 3 months new, and I've been here a year, and I should get the job. And so she was going to write me up. And I was like, no way, I'm not signing that. She went, yes, you are. You are. You have to sign this. I went, no, I don't. And she went, this could get you fired for not signing this. I went, you know what? I said, I don't care. And so she called, the president in, the vice president over, because we had a situation. I was not allowed to go back behind the teller window. I was told to sit in the lobby. And I sat there, and the president came in, vice president came in. She went, Matt will be with you in just one moment. And so they walked into the office. They wanted to hear the branch manager's story and then hear mine. And so she's there lying through her teeth about whatever. I could just hear her saying, he refuses to do this write-up, and we should have written him up for this a long time ago. And they said, was it really necessary? She went, yes, we have to write him up. And so I just barged in there. I said, I'm sorry. I laid into that lady. I said, you are the meanest, rudest. I said, I quit. You hear me? You hear me, President, Vice President? I said, I quit. I will not work for this woman. She's trying to write me up on a trumped-up charge from 9 months ago. She didn't tell me it was 9 months ago. She said he was over in his drawer, and we're trying to write him up. She was trying to act like it was just recent. I said, that happened 9 months ago. And they looked at her. She went, well, so she didn't say anything. I said, and the only reason she's doing this, she doesn't want me to have the loan officer job. In fact, she has passed me up for every promotion. She won't let me go to the ATM. She refuses to let me be a vault teller. This new girl is already a vault teller, already operates the ATM. She's been here 3 months, and now she knows more than me. I said, you have purposely withheld that from me. And I said, to be honest, and I looked at the president, I said, I could sue you for discrimination right now. I said, because I'm the only male here, and everyone else has been, promoted or gotten, extra abilities, and she has not given me one single thing because I am a male. And I said, but you don't have to worry because I quit. And I remember walking out, didn't care about burning. I preached about not burning bridges earlier, but I was so hot because I'd never liked this new manager. And walked out, went to the back, grabbed my stuff, walked out the door. Threw my keys down on the counter, teller keys, and just marched out. I was done, so done. And I was happy done. The next day, I get a call from HR that I have to come in and sign something. No, I quit. I don't have to sign anything. She said, yes, we need you to sign this so you can get your money. I said, what money? And she said, well, your little 401k or whatever savings. I was like, okay, really? Did I have a 401k for 1 year? What does it have in it? $6? And she went, it's $10,000. And I went, $10,000 in 1 year? No. So I walked up in there to sign this document, and it was a document stating that I had left on my own accord and yada, 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 would not sue. And I went, oh, because I said, you better not hire any more males here because they could sue the pants off you for discrimination, gender discrimination. I was just pissed. I said, it's all her fault, because she discriminates. And I was not going to sue him. And so I looked at HR and said, hey, because I knew the HR lady, said, hey, Wendy, I'm not suing. She went, I know, but she's like, well, you have to sign it. And I went, no, I'm not going to sign. I know this is a payoff, right? No, it's money from your 401k. I said, $10,000 in 1 year, Wendy? Is that what we're calling it? Or some kind of savings or severance money is what she called it. I went, $10,000? That's a payoff. Wendy, that's a payoff. And by the way, sidebar on Wendy, she had the hottest little sister. I begged to be hooked up with, but Wendy was like, no, you're better than her. No, I'm not. But anyway, but I was just saying, look, I'm not going to say, because I didn't. Everyone's thinking, Matt, you idiot, sign, get the 10,000. But I didn't want it because I was not going to sue. I thought I was offended. They thought I was going to sue them, but I ended up signing it and got a check for $10,000, and that's what led to my siesta, my summer siesta. My good buddy Jonathan Garza. Remember, I just spoke to him a week ago. We kind of laughed about my summer siesta because he remembers calling me and just being shocked they had handed me $10,000. He said, what are you going to do with it? And I said, what am I going to do with it? I said, I'm probably going to not work all summer. And he laughed. And sure enough, I got on plane rides. I flew, around the states, visiting certain friends here and there, and just having a grand old time, paying for people's lunches. I didn't have a job, but I was paying for the whole table's lunch because I had money to burn, baby, burn. And I was super, super duper happy, and was living the high life. In fact, I remember I'd And that's where the rumor started that I was super rich. People didn't know I'd gotten this payoff. And it so happened that I remember I'd gotten a job at another. I did not want to work at another bank, but it seemed like that was the only people hiring. And so I said, "Great, I'm about to go on vacation. Can I come back on vacation? Because our vacation was a week long." And she said, "Sure." My dad was so pissed that I went on vacation because he knew I'd been without a job for months. He went, "Buddy boy, you need to get back." I said, "Nah, Dad, I got the job. It's okay. I got the job." And when I came back from vacation, they had given it to someone else, and they apologized to me. But the lady who had turned it down wanted it. Change your mind. And I went, "Oh, well, can I have her job?" And went, "We already filled that one too." I went, "Wait, so you offered me a job?" I probably could have sued them too. I don't know. If I was thinking about it, I probably would have done it. But I remember my money was running low. I didn't have enough money to pay next month's rent or bills or anything because I was running low. And I was like, well, I blew all that money, but I had a fun time. And I remember I grabbed my mail. I walked up on the levee. I would sit and watch the sunset sometimes. And I sat and watched the sunset, and I opened up, my mail, looked at my mail. And I happened to look down, and it was a letter from this is a true story, by the way, a letter from a lawyer. And I was like, from New York. And I was like, what is this? My great aunt passed away, and she was the apprentice of some famous American painter. I'll have to ask my mom who it was because I do not recall. She died childless. And so her sister, my grandmother's kids, were the only kids that she knew. And I hadn't seen her in forever because she never came by anymore because she lived in New York. She split up all of her money among all of her sister's grandchildren. And I was staring at a $5,000 check. And that's when I took a few more months off. I blew through that too. Man, do I regret all that. Not the best decisions there. Not the wisest decisions. Now, eventually, I would go on. I would go on to find work in other spots. Later on, after leaving the bank, I remember I had my hair was getting a little too long, and so I refused to cut it. And so I was growing my hair out a little bit. Had a little bit of shaggy hair. I remember I was going door to door, kind of doing my whole thing about, hey, yeah, I had an interview today, and I didn't. I just say I would, and I felt so. One dude felt so. It was an advertising agency. They did like banners and whatnot, ad banners and bench wrap banners, and they'd wrap cars and stuff. And he had a sales position open, but he kept apologizing. He said, "Man, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." He said, "Usually I have this stuff written down." He said, "Who'd you talk to?" I said, "Your secretary out there." I said, I said, "I could have had it wrong, but I thought she said Wednesday at 2." He said, "Man, I don't have anything about it. I'm so sorry." And we did the interview, and he said, "I don't want you to think that I'm unprofessional, so I want to apologize to you." I said, and then I felt bad. I said, so when I left, I turned around and said, "Hey, dude, I got to be honest with you. I made that whole thing up. I just wanted to talk to you." And he goes, "I'm going to hire you right now." And I said, "Yeah, but after hearing the job detail, I'm not interested." I was a bit of a jerk there. But and I remember one lady got super mad. I think that president just cussed me out. She went, "You're a liar. You're a liar. I did not, schedule. I do not schedule interviews on this day." And I remember there's one lady who called me out on that, and she was right, and I did fess up to her. She called me a BSer, and then eventually gave me the job, and that ended up being DirecTV, which is where I worked for years until they closed that call center down. I believe on Prince of the Universe a while back, I talked about my DirecTV stories because that's kind of how this all came about. My buddy from DirecTV, we visited, and we were telling all those stories, and I said, I need to do a podcast about that. And then it eventually led to, wait, I want to do a podcast about all the stories I had from previous jobs. So that's kind of what it led to. So there you go. Top 5 moments from what was I talking about now? The bank? No. The bank there. The credit union there. Fun times. blowing through tons of money. What's the most money you blew through as a kid? I blew through tons of money at DirecTV too. I was very wasteful at it. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you next time on Saturday Morning Samoflange.